All right, how is everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA, and thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So what I want to get into today is actually building an immune system for your life. I know I come up with these wacky titles. It's just the way I think, my mind. And I don't know if you ever got to hear my podcast about building like your immune system not to get sick. I'm very fortunate. I don't get sick that often. I've only really been sick, I think, I know that sounds crazy, like twice in 20 years. I know that sounds whack. And guess what happened? I preached all that shit on my podcast. I ended up getting a little sick not too long ago. I got a temperature in my head for a couple days. My throat got sore. I usually have all these different things where I eat oatmeal and orange juice and do all these different weird things to make sure I never get sick. But I think in like 2 months, I did a lot of traveling. It's been horrible weather. And I had to go back and forth to Canada numerous times in a week. And I was catching like 3 flights a day to get to some of these locations, and usually I can handle it, but I was going in and out of a lot of different, normally I go into and out of a lot of different weather. But I live in Florida, so it was like going from 80 to 20 below. Then I'd fly back to DC, hypothetically, and it was 30, then back to 15 below, and then one time it was 50 below, and then I flew back to Florida, it was 80. Then I had to fly to like, where was that, California? I'm actually in LA right now, but it was all these different things, taking all these different flights. I was spending a lot of time in airports. Planes were being canceled, and I think I just wore myself, even though I have this immune system that's pretty incredible. But I ended up getting a little sick, believe it or not, after talking shit on a podcast. Anyways, but this is different. This is immune system for your life. And I think a lot of people don't do this because what happens, and I talk about a little bit of this in my Mastering Self-Confidence program. I just feel like I'm pitching that, and that's just part of, I'm not pitching that for you to go join that or even review it all the time. If you want to, you're welcome to it. But it's learning to handle rejection, because life is continuously about being rejected. You just probably don't even realize how many times you're getting rejected a day. You only really see the big ones. So if you ask a girl out and she rejects you, all right, you send them, that's kind of obvious. You're getting rejected. You're applying for a new job. You don't get accepted. All right, you're getting, whatever. All right. But a lot of times in your life, you're doing things that you want to do, and you're kind of rejecting yourself. You're mentally rejecting yourself. So you may be like, hey, I want to start working out. Then your mind says, let's start next week. You kind of rejected yourself. You know what I mean? Really. You want to get a certain something, you can't afford it. Understood, but are you going to figure out a way and get creative on how to get that? Now, if it's something preposterous like a Ferrari or something, well, then figure it out. But I'm just saying, a lot of times, not only are you being rejected from others, you're rejecting yourself. So you have to build up an immune system, I believe, to not accept any of this shit mentally, right? You got to reprogram your brain to say, if I want something, I deserve it and I'm going to get it. Why would I let even myself get in the way of that? Because I think a lot of times I goof around and say there's like 3 of us. I don't know if you heard any of my other podcasts. A lot of people think there's kind of 2 of us. And I think there's one that's like kind of gun-ho a lot of times. Like, hey, I could do it. I'm going to do this and do that and do this. Then lazy ass kind of kicks in and goes, you know what, let's think this through. That'll cost too much money, or that's too much time, or let's just go watch TV, or let's do this instead, right? There's lazy ass. But there's a third that I think for most of us a lot of times that needs to step in and say, Bodhi, you shut up. Let's go. Right? Because kind of one's coming up with the ideas, but really doesn't implement them. And one's kind of rejecting the ideas. Who's the one, going? It's like having 3 passengers in the car. One needs to literally hit the gas to go, because you got 2 passengers sitting there. One's kind of telling you, yeah, I think I know where we could go to eat. Should we try this? Should we try that? And you're like, The other one's like, no, that place sucks. I don't like that, this and that. One just got to say, shut up, let's go eat. Right? That's basically your subconscious. It just keep doing things, right? You don't even know you're doing them half the time. But again, when you're getting rejecting yourself, that's what's happening. And you need to build that immune system where you're like, who's that guy? That Navy guy. I love that guy. That Navy SEAL. God, how can I forget his name? Anything that bad happens, he says good. And I love that. Anytime anything happens wrong, good. It was meant to happen that way. I want to go try this business and it failed. Good. Now I learned. I want to go, lift this weight and I couldn't lift it. Good. I got to train harder. Whatever happens, it's good, kind of, right? And I think that's what you got to build with your immune system is no matter what situation you're in your life, again, you're going to be rejected, not only outside, You don't want to be rejected anymore inside, but you have to say, you know what? Why am I getting rejected, right? Why am I even rejecting myself? Do I want to be a victim? Am I afraid? How do I really do I want others to perceive me a certain way? How do I even perceive myself? I think that's what people have to realize. And, I talk about stepping outside yourself a lot of times because I really don't think people understand the way they behave or act. And I didn't either, truthfully. So when I made my first film, Sore Losers, about the underground world of gambling in Chicago, I didn't write myself in it. It was based loosely on me and my friends growing up, gambling, booking, collecting money, all these different things. And I wrote a role in for my closest friend at the time, one of my closest friends. I can't say he's my oldest close friend, one of my closest friends. And he was going to play one of the lead roles, and then he became very religious. And he pulled out, and I was kind of screwed because I had a lot of people that I wanted to involve, actors and non-actors. I wanted to be very realistic. So I had to kind of step in there because I couldn't find anybody really in Chicago that had the chemistry with all of us, and that was the last thing I wanted to do, but I ended up doing it. So, and the character was kind of loosely based on me anyways. It was me and and I wanted him to be a combination of both of us, actually. That's kind of how I wrote it, and then eventually I just had to rewrite it where it's just me. Not too hard, not far of a stretch. But then after finishing it, after shooting a couple years, and you go in the editing room, and I saw myself. And I was shocked at myself. I haven't seen myself. I did some modeling when I was younger in some commercials. That was the last time I saw myself, and I was very thin. And don't get me wrong, when I got married, you videotape it, and we had some christenings, and I can kind of see. You see who you are, but you're holding your babies, you're giving them kisses. It's a family environment. You don't see how you act. You don't see yourself when you're eating. You don't see yourself how you really talk to people, your tone, your actions, the way you walk, and the eyes, like how really. And a lot of what I was doing in that movie was just me. I didn't have time to really, because I was directing it, and then I'm having worrying about the words, the camera, the lighting, and the locations and everything. It was exhausting. Besides acting it, I don't know. I just literally at that time I thought I took on too much. But again, it almost becomes egotistical because you keep looking at yourself and you're critiquing the shit out of yourself. Thank God I had a really experienced editor, David McKenna, I think his last. Unbelievable New York guy. He fell in love with the movie. Thank God. My cousin was another one of the top editors in Chicago. He loved it too and kept telling me go forward. My editor did a good job with that. I thought I'm shit. When you're looking at yourself acting, you're like, oh my God, everything sucks. That's what I suck. But my God, I kind of looked at it and said, is this the way I talk to my ex-wife at the time? She was my wife at the time. Or is this the way I am with my, like, this is who I am. It was like stepping outside myself. So from that point on, I really had to understand that how I was affecting other people, right? And I don't think a lot of people, even people listening to my podcast, understand everything they say and do, how it affects other people in their life. Obviously, if you're married or you have a partner or you have children or your parents, colleagues. And sometimes I could come off very harsh, but I also tried to start to learn, instead of saying something negative all the time, for me, I want to say something positive about somebody because I really was thinking positive things, but I was just kind of programmed to be a dick sometimes or an asshole or act a certain way, and I didn't feel that way. It was almost like a insecure mechanism, right? I'm always, I don't know if you have that, and I think a lot of people do. A lot of times they're thinking, good things, but bad come out, or like something just triggers you. But if you even had time, so when I was making that movie, let me go back to there, we'd be eating, I'm like, wow, I eat like that? Like, how, that looks a little classless. You said this, or, even my clothes, a lot of our clothes, I'm like, wow, why were you wearing that? That makes you look, why are you the way you are, I guess you could say. How did I end up being this? Now, a lot of people may be 100% comfortable in their own skin, which I love more than anything. But I can speak for myself. There was a lot of things I realized that I could work on and still can. Holy shit, I've been doing these YouTube videos and I'm looking at myself. I blink too much. At times I talk too fast. Then other times I talk too slow. Then sometimes I always had this issue with my voice. The later it gets, the darker. The deeper my voice gets, the later it is, or the early in the morning it's deep. Then I kind of go higher pitched. My father's the same way. And again, nobody's perfect. I'm not trying to sit here and critique and bash myself to death. But if you sometimes, again, step outside yourself. And I had two weird incidences when I was younger. And you hear these stories about Jordan or professional athletes. I'm not saying I'm a professional athlete by any means. Not even close, not saying that. But I had these things where I was so obsessed with sports where I was just always doing sports. It became just mechanical to me. And I remember one time I was wrestling, and I swear to you, it just became so routine that I could have swore I stepped outside. Something was looking outside, and I was watching myself wrestle, which really blew me away. I was watching myself wrestle. And then another time I was lifting some extremely heavy weights. I got so obsessed with it. I was once doing a heavy row. And again, I was behind myself, watching myself. I don't know if I was hallucinating. I don't know what the hell you want to call it. That's just what I saw. And that's never really happened again like that. But I think about that all the time where I'm looking at this. If I'm about to get nuts or yell or scream, or something's about to trigger me, or whatever the case may be, I really try to step outside myself and think that I am outside here looking and saying, Rich, control yourself. Remember how you looked when you were in the movie or you did this or that. You didn't really like yourself. So that doesn't mean I don't get nuts and get, crazy. And if I do, sometimes I even have to apologize. But I'm by myself most of the time when I work. So I don't interact with a lot of people for long periods of time. I just go to work and do what I got to do. And then I'm by myself probably 75% of the time, which works fine for me because I was kind of an only child, and I'm very fine with that. And my point being, again, is back to building an immune system in your life. I slowly but surely built one where I was really kind of comfortable, and I can catch myself kind of before I fucked up, right? Before I settle, because I used to have no filter. I, at times, like in this situation, I'm not going to have a filter a lot of times because hopefully I'm not personally going to hurt anybody. And if I want to hurt somebody verbally, I'm going to blast them. That's just who I am, especially if they're pissing me off or they're acting like an asshole or a jagoff in my eyes. Do I have the right to do that sometimes? Probably not. But I usually am not the one to start a beef, but I just cannot handle being bullshit or lied to or manipulated. If I catch you, I'm going to go at you. And I have no fear because I have the thing where, for the most part, maybe if I'm against the MMA heavyweight champion of the world, I don't have the fear, me mentally, where if I get in a verbal altercation with you, if it keeps escalating into even a fight, I don't care. And I think that's a flaw of mine, but it's also, I think, a strength of mine. Because I'll tell you something, if you have the balls to keep, and I've been in screaming matches with family members even, I mean, it's gotten very heated, very bad. And I've also with friends, close friends that I've gotten altercations with and stuff, and then we've come together at the end. But I think I've hung around a lot of alpha male dudes. Even one of my closest friends owns one of the biggest boxing gyms in Chicago, and all I did was lift with powerlifters, bodybuilders, martial arts dudes, all this. And some of them dudes could definitely kick my ass, even though I was pretty big and strong, but they can definitely, some were professional fighters. My closest friend is... even though he's smaller, maybe if I lifted him, slammed him on his head or something, but a lot of these guys are great fighters. But I don't have that fear component to me, and I think I built up an immune system with that. And again, I'm not telling you to do that, but what I am telling you to do is build an immune system where you can handle a lot more than you think you can, and it doesn't make you sick, I guess you could say. And I don't mean sick in the sense where you got to lay in bed and you have a temperature and shit. I mean, you're making your body weak. Right? Or becoming a victim. You don't even realize it sometimes. You want to build up that strength, that immune system where you can handle anything, where no matter what someone says to you, you know what I mean? If it's to hurt you, you can remember it, but it doesn't destroy you. I think a lot of people let words destroy themselves. I used to date this girl, and I remember a while back ago, and she used to, and she was Italian, and we'd get in altercations once in a while. And I could say anything. I didn't care, and she could blast me. And then for some reason with me, there's no sweat off my back. In 5 minutes, you could get in a screaming match with me, and literally 6 minutes later, I'll be eating a meal with you and having a laughing fit. I don't know if that's the household I grew up in, with a lot of Italians screaming, even physical. It would get, and then 10 minutes later, everything's out in the open, everything's fine. It's not like grudges were held for long periods of time because my family was too big and loving, and you couldn't pick side. Like nobody, I didn't see that. But I remember sitting across from her one time, and I said something to her, and she says, words hurt. And I was like, no, they really don't. They don't hurt me. Like, I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, when you say things, you don't realize the impact, like you're hurting me. And I was like, holy shit, she's right. I think I just built up an immune system where if you said something to me, I always said it's hard to say something bad about me because I'm kind of immune to it, which I'm probably not. I have my own insecurities to myself, but people could bash me and say I'm stupid, you're this, you're that, or that. I'd be like, go F yourself. I don't care what you're talking about. You're a jagoff. In my mind, shut up. You don't know what you're talking. You're this. In my mind, you're this, and this. So get the hell out of here. And I don't care if you're wealthy, poor, or whatever. I just didn't. Your words, I think I just programmed myself to think that everything was full of shit to a certain degree. Now, if you're telling me things that are knowledgeable, I love that. I'm kind of like a sponge. So if I'm listening to Joe Rogan, hypothetically, on his podcast, yeah, I like that. I'm like absorbing that. Even comedians, they're talking about things. Yeah, I like that. But if you're a know-it-all and I don't think you're that intelligent, or you're talking shit that doesn't relate to me, I'm kind of like, I can put up a shield, right? And again, is that good or bad? I don't know, but I built that immune system up. I'm not telling you this, but words, sometimes you got to realize, back to the immune system, what you're saying to others, but also letting others say things to you. I get that a lot of words do hurt, right? And you need to learn that a lot of times those are just people's opinions. They really don't know as much as you think they do. And even if they do call you out on your bullshit, a lot of times absorb it, because you may need that hit. You may be coming off a certain way and you don't even realize it. You may be doing things that are hurting yourself. People may be calling you out on it. Or you just may be an asshole, right? A lot of times there's a lot of dicks out there. I think a lot of dudes at different times in their life are dicks. Just depends on the situation they're in, right? Because even when I travel sometimes, I could catch myself kind of being a dick. I didn't even mean to. Like if I'm going to rent a rental car and this happens and they don't have the car ready for me, or this, all of a sudden I'm lashing out to the person and they have nothing to do with it, right? They're just, they can't control the car not being there, even if it's, I'm like, what are you talking? Or I go to a hotel and they're like, your room's not ready, hypothetically. And then I'm like, what the fuck? It's, it's time. How's my room not ready? Like, I'm bashing that. Like, I just got to step back and say, dude, you're being a dick, right? You got to acknowledge that time, right? So there's a difference between building an immune system and not letting people take advantage of you, and then you being a dick and kind of lashing out. I'm just using those for example, and I think we do that in relationships as well a lot of times. And I do that too, because sometimes I'm just, I don't look at things from somebody else's perspective, especially a lot of times in a relationship. I'm really good, and I'm extremely patient, I think. And most people will tell you this, Rich, you're so patient with this and that. But then when it flips the other way, I have zero patience. So I flip it the other way and go, now you could go fuck yourself. Like, I have no patience for you. Once I hit the wall, then I get aggravated, then it's almost like I cut it. And then there's no going back to it, which isn't good either. I got to find the middle of the road sometimes for me, where I am a little patient and not patient, I guess you could say. My mom used to say, too good is no good. And then I get between trying to be as good, and then I get a little taken advantage of, or I get a little pissed off, then I blast you verbally, and then all of a sudden, then I don't listen to you, or I ignore you and do whatever I want to do, and I don't give a shit what the consequences are. That's not good either, because am I helping myself, hurting myself? So again, I'm just giving you ideas of what I've gone through trying to build up this immune system, but really, if you can, start reprogramming your brain. I'm not telling you what you always got to do. I'm just saying this is what worked for me. If you feel like rejection is, kind of taking hold of you, and things just aren't going your way, in your life the way you plan, take a step back, look outside yourself, and say, why is this not happening? Is it because I need to be more, educated? Do I need to learn more? Do I need to study more about what I want to do and be successful in? Am I a know-it-all? Am I the way I'm coming across? And it could even be in relationships. A lot of time, no one wants to blame themselves, man. But I could assure you probably do more things wrong than good in a relationship, and vice versa. A lot of women too. No one's perfect. I always said, most people do wrong. They don't even know they're doing wrong, but they're not doing right. Because even financially, a lot of times people don't make the right financial decisions constantly, and they wonder why they're always broke, right? And a lot of times, no matter how much money people make, I realized a lot of times they're always kind of in debt because they're spending too much money, or they're not balancing, they're just not, they don't know how to save money. They're doing a lot of stupid things over and over again. You really got to look at that and call yourself out on those things, right? And stop blaming others, especially in relationships. Because a lot of times I'm going to call people out on their bullshit. Because if I took two people's, a relationship, I always said, you got hers, his, or his and his, hers and hers, whatever. You got their story, and then you got the truth, right? And you blend all that together, and a lot of it's just bullshit. So again, a lot of times we think we're always making the right decisions, and a lot of times they're wrong. We got to admit, like, holy shit, should I go buy this new car? Probably not. I should probably get a used car, right? Save some money. Should I buy this house and overextend myself and become, house poor? No, get a smaller house. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? You're probably better off getting a smaller house in a neighborhood with bigger houses. It'll appreciate more. I'm just using it for an example. Instead of getting the most expensive home, because you want a big home, you get a big home in a community, and now basically all the small homes are bringing your value down. And then you get a big home, and you're like, holy shit, I didn't realize there was all this money to maintain this home, and more taxes or more everything. So just think about your decisions, is what I'm saying. Regarding that, but definitely back to I don't want to get into that shit, but build that immune system in your life, especially mentally and physically, right? I believe too, if you believe you're healthy, you're strong internally, physically, then also you're going to also make really good decisions, and let shit bounce off you. Don't let everything going on. You're going to have good days, bad days. I talk about that in the podcast all the time. I don't care who you are. You're not dodging all the bullets. You're going to have good weeks, good months, bad months, good year, bad years. I don't give a shit how positive you think you are. You're walking around bullshitting yourself, saying it's all coming my way, which it may. God bless. I want you to feel that way, but don't think it is going to go your way. You're going to deal with people dying in your life. You're going to deal with sickness. You're dying. I can assure you that. I always say death is hunting you. Don't bullshit yourself thinking you're going to live forever. Don't think you're always going to be healthy. Do your best to stay healthy. But you got to realize, enjoy your time now, especially when you are healthy. All right? All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA show. WTF are you talking about? I got YouTube out there. I got a YouTube channel if you want to check that out. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. Take care, and if you're traveling, safe travels.